retired Army, and he started out as an enlisted, worked his way up to be a colonel, and I think that is absolutely phenomenal. And to me, that is a great accomplishment. How are you doing?
I'm good. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good. Now,
Doing good.
before everybody, before we get in, we are now streaming on YouTube, Facebook Live on both of them. I want to welcome everybody from both sites. And also in the bio, y'all go in even on our Facebook page. There's going to be a link up to Nova Institute, and they're doing a study. It's a virtual, and I highly recommend each and everybody do um, go in and do the research. It's virtual. It's easy going. And so tonight, this is our first time to preview this, and I thought it was a perfect to bring the Colonel on. And Colonel, let's go ahead and start whenever you went in. Everybody knows you're in the Army, but let's get a bio about you.
Well, I grew up out here in Phoenix. I was born in Texas, and in '72 I graduated from high school and didn't know what I wanted to do, and kind of farted around. And so in November of '72, I decided to enlist in the Army, and so that was even before I turned 18 in December 4th. So finally turned. So I went enlisted, and then I went into basic training in January of '73 to Fort Ord, and got promoted out of basic training. So I was an E2 out of basic training, and then I went to AIT at Fort Sam Houston as a medic, and got promoted out of there. So in my first 4 months, I was a PFC, and then I went to Germany. I'd actually volunteered for Special Forces, and I went through all the testing for that. And I passed everything: the swim, the language test, the photo recon test. I did everything they needed. And then they came back and said, "Well, you passed everything, but your vision's too bad." And I said, "You didn't know my vision was too bad before that?" So anyway, so they made me. I waived all my guarantees and everything. But anyway, so they didn't take me. So I ended up going over to Germany, and I was with the 3rd Battalion, 21st Field Artillery, as a medic with them, and we fired the mighty fine Otis John rocket over there, and went to Grafenwehr all the time and froze my butt off, and it was cold as hell there. But I did reforgers, and I went up to Wind, Texas, and Veal Flicking, and did all that stuff. You been there? You done that? Huh?
I was stationed at Wild Flicking, so
so and that was back in the day when they'd make you take the canvas off your trucks and drive around at 2:00 in the morning in a blizzard. And, they said you're going to be an air guard on the passenger was the air guard on a deuce and a half. And you're going, nothing could fly in this weather, but you froze to death. And so anyhow, I did my time, and I was going to re-enlist actually. But my mom got sick, and I had to come home on emergency leave a couple of months before my tour was up. So I came home. I applied for a compassionate reassignment, but it was the end of my time. They said, "Well, we're just going to let you out." So I went ahead and did that. And the Army was broke back then. I mean, there was drugs everywhere. I was a medic over there, and I'd get woke up at 2:00 in the morning, and, "Hey, doc, there's a guy dead in the shower from an overdose." And I'd go in there. "Yeah, one of our soldiers is dead." And we had another guy, he got busted for drugs. And so back then what they do is they take the door off your room, and this guy laid there all night right outside with a CQ could see him. And the next morning when they tried to wake everybody up, he'd laid there, he'd been dead all night from an overdose.
Man.
And, they didn't drug test or anything back then. And if you weren't an alcoholic, you were on drugs. It seemed like that was the theme. And it was pretty bad. The Army was pretty broke back then. So, it was a bad time. And so I went out, I went on the GI Bill. I went to Phoenix College, and I'd made E5. So I got out as an E5, Spec 5. Went to Phoenix College, asked them, what could I do with my Army experience? And they said, well, there's 120 women in the nursing program. So I thought, well, okay, that's for me. So I became an RN. And my first job was working as a registered nurse at the County Hospital in the emergency department. So I became a trauma nurse. And then I moved up to the mountains in Payson, Arizona. And I got on the fire department, and I was a medic with the fire department. And then I became the paramedic coordinator for the fire department and did all the rah-rah EMS stuff. And you know, when Reagan came into office, he kind of resurrected the military and kind of, you know, I thought, you know, I'd always wanted to be a captain because every TV show had a captain on it, you know. And, you know, they had JAG back in those days. And, you know, JAG was an attorney, but he flew jets too. It's like I couldn't figure that out. I go, I guess you could do anything in the Navy. You know, you can be a lawyer, you can fly jets, you can do anything. So I went ahead and I applied for a commission in 88 and I got commissioned in 89. And I thought, you know, there's not going to be any war. Life's good. So I was assigned to the 403rd Combat Support Hospital in Phoenix. And it was a great unit. It was all doctors, nurses, medics, x-ray techs. You know, it was a full combat support hospital. And sure as heck in August, that's when, you know, Saddam decided to invade Kuwait. And we almost got immediately notified to be deployed. But at the time, they realized that nobody in the medical corps had ever gone to officer basic course. And there was a law that said you couldn't deploy soldiers unless they had actually been through some kind of basic combat training. So everybody that had never been through an officer basic course had to go to Fort Sam Houston and go through a 2-week shake and bake course to learn how to be a soldier. And I'd been prior service, so I knew the drill. But I get there, and they had full bird colonels that didn't even own uniforms. They'd been no, there were lieutenant colonels and colonels that had never ever got a uniform or whatever, never been to an officer basic course, nothing. So, and they ran those. There was 300 of us in the first iteration of that. So I went through that, and then I went to Fort Ord. We got deployed out of Fort Ord. So it was really kind of funny because in 72, 73, I went to Fort Ord for basic and then back to Fort Sam for AIT. This time I had to go to Fort Sam, and then I went back to Fort Ord to be deployed to Iraq and Saudi Arabia. So we got there, and we were that was December. We finally got into theater the first part of January, and we were at Kobar Towers. And for some reason or another, my name came up on January 17th to be the officer of the day for all of Kobar Towers. So I went down to the post headquarters there, and they gave me my radio, and they briefed all these guys, and we were these interior guards that walked around. Everybody was the interior guard. And so I had radio, and I communicated with all these guys. Well, about 2:30 in the morning, 2:45, all of a sudden sirens go off. DEFCON 4, Scud launched. And all of a sudden these rockets started taking off. Well, hell, I didn't know what DEFCON 4 was. I didn't know what a Scud was. And I didn't know what these rockets taking off were. And it turned out they were the Patriots taking off.
Oh, yeah.
And so they blew up a Scud, which landed right not too far from where my tower was. And so we were all in mop gear at the bottom floor of this place. And, you know, we're sitting there for hours waiting to get all cleared. And that's the night the air war started. So
wait, they kept you in Mop 4 for hours?
Yeah, for hours.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? See, okay. I was never in Mop 4 for hours.
Yeah.
I was in Mop 4 for maybe half hour. You know, but of course, they always told us everything was all clear all the time. So,
well, right. Well, when that Scud hit, they weren't sure what it was, you know. So, you know, that Scud had landed right in the middle of the compound, like just not really almost outside of where we were at. So they didn't know what it was. But I think we were probably in mop gear for 3 hours or more, you know, and we were all on the bottom floor. I always thought, well, man, if another Scud hit that building and we're at the bottom of it, it'd be crazy to be at the bottom. But anyway, we got the all clear. And then finally, we got a few days later, we got an order. They put everything we had on 2 C-130s. So they had took away all of our gear, put it up in the first C-130. And I was in the second C-130, and we took off, and we were going to land at KKMC, and the first plane landed. Well, ours came in, the C-130, and he tried to land, and he couldn't. It was a blinding rainstorm, and the first one landed, and we couldn't land. So we ended up going back to Dhahran. Now I haven't got anything. I haven't got a toothbrush. I haven't got my skivvies. I haven't got a uniform. I haven't got nothing. Everything was in the first one. So we go back there, and then so we had to wait for about 6 days to get on a convoy to go up. So we finally got on a convoy. We get up to where we're going to be, and we're 5 kilometers from the Iraqi border. And we found out about 2 weeks later that they put us in the wrong spot. We were so far forward, we were in front of everything. And so somebody got their butt chewed for that. But when we got there, all of our stuff had sat in a big pile in the rain for days. So
that
everything
sounds about right. Yeah.
Everything was absolutely soaking wet. And we were, because we were a reserve unit, all of our equipment was in Belgium. So we had to send three guys in November, had to go to Belgium, get our stuff out of Pomkis, load it up on a ship, ship it to Dhahran, and then taken out. All the mill vans got taken off and put on trucks. So we sat out there with absolutely nothing in January, freezing, soaking wet.
Put your shit on a ship. Why wouldn't they just fly this stuff to you? I mean, especially now. Were you so Doc? You were a medical unit? No, you were in it. What kind of unit were you in?
It was a combat support hospital. It was a 300 man combat support hospital. It was a 200-bed hospital. So it was everything. I mean, we're talking about expandable surgery units, X-ray units, laboratory, blood bank, everything. I mean, it's a complete hospital on trucks. And so it got there, and finally, we finally got, I think there was something like 40, maybe it's 20 mill vans. And so I spent all day long on top of a big forklift I had to stand on top of it because the switch didn't work for turning the toggle. So I sat up on top of this thing all day long, offloading these mill vans off of trucks, manually flicking the togs. And so we finally offloaded our stuff. I got a GP small for me and 2 other officers, because now I'm a first lieutenant now, by the way. I was commissioned a first lieutenant because I'd had so many years experience. I was just a little skosh away from coming in as a captain, but I'm a first lieutenant doing that. And we set up our hospital, and I'll never forget one of the things, we pulled out these potbelly stoves that were dated 1945.
1945?
Yeah, they were from 1945. They've been over there for years, and they were just your old-fashioned potbelly stove. They use,
work like a million.
The 5-gallon.
Never had that problem with them. Yeah, that's what we had. Hell yeah, that's what we had. And they worked like. Did your work good? Ours worked great.
Well, they worked good. The first thing the nurses did in a big GP medium was burn it down. They got that thing cherry hot and burned the tent down. So
holy crap!
I forgot what that. Oh my God, that's funny.
But you know what happens when you get that thing cherry hot? You do it too hot, it'll burn a tent down in a minute.
Oh yeah.
But here's doctors and nurses, surgeons with the most amazing hands, and we have to build this 200-bed hospital with no engineer support. We didn't have flak vests. We all had the forest green, camouflage uniform. But we built this 200-bed hospital out there by ourselves. But fortunately, as a reserve unit, we had been fielded the training kit for a DepMed's hospital. It's called Deployable Medical System. And so we had set it up, and we had done it at our training sites before. So we were very experienced in how to build the hospital. But you got to lay this thing out just right, because you've got to put all of your hard stuff, like your surgery units and your X-ray and all these other things. You got to set those things up just right. And then you build your tonnage all around it, so you've got everything articulated.
Sure.
But
so I do have a question, though, because you were talking the other day, and I was asking you about, do you know anybody, or have you had any problem with dealing with any of the Scud missiles that landed around you? And you were talking about that, how some were affected.
Well, we nobody was really affected at the time. But when we came home, there were several people in our unit. My executive officer, Mike McGregor, he was a great guy. He was our executive officer. He ended up dying within about the first 9 months after we came back.
Wow.
We had another sergeant that died that was perfectly healthy. So we had several deaths that nobody could really explain. Weird things, like leukemia or, just some weird things that just came up. Now, was it a natural incidence of disease? I don't know, but it was pretty weird. It was pretty, traumatizing to everybody. So that was really unfortunate that happened like that. We had a clearing company that was attached to us, and the clearing company that was attached, we're supposed to go forward and clear the battlefield and stuff. Well, they had a doctor and several. So once we set our hospital up, I toured this doctor in that clearing company, showed him everything that we'd set up, and I was assigned to the pre-op area, which is like the emergency department where you do triage. That's where I was assigned because I'd been a trauma nurse and a firefighter and a medic and all that stuff. So I'm pretty familiar with emergency medicine. And I toured this guy. Well, the next day, him and another guy went up forward and started looking around and grabbed some cluster bombs off the battlefield, blew themselves up and killed themselves.
No,
we actually had that exact same thing. Although the guys didn't kill themselves, I think there was one person that lost an arm because they grabbed these damn cluster bombs, didn't understand what they were messing with, and were playing catch. And then we had a mail truck that got burned down because, I don't know, somebody tried to mail something like that or something similar, burned the damn mail truck all down, and like, oh,
wait. How big is a cluster bomb?
Oh, they're about that big around.
Yeah.
They're
hand size.
Yeah, they're little.
They come in
little
a big
bomblets. They spread all over the battlefield. They're an anti-personnel thing.
Yeah, they're supposedly, Wade, maybe, or you both know. I think now they're supposed to be illegal, right?
Right.
Supposed to be. Yeah, but yeah,
this clearing company, I couldn't believe it. So we go through the war. We set up our thing. We ate chili mac, I guess, for weeks because we couldn't get any fresh food to cook or anything. And so we did our thing. We had 4 operating rooms. We had amazing surgeons. We took care of a third of the casualties. One interesting thing was the first 2 casualties I got, because we were in the 7th Corps region. So we had the big tank units that went in, and they came around the corner and kind of curved into the Iraqi army. And the very first 2 casualties I got was an American officer who was wounded in his eye, and the other one was an Iraqi officer from a tank, and he was wounded in his eye. It was like poetic, an eye for an eye. I'll never forget it. Those were the first 2 casualties we got. And so we took care of about a third of the casualties for the entire war. We had 100% survival rate, but some people died when they were evac back to a higher echelon hospital. But we had an amazing team. We had one doctor. He was the funniest guy. I was sitting in Fort Ord, and I was sitting outside the CQ at Fort Ord, and this guy drives up in a cream-colored Mercedes Benz with the top down, and he's this goofy guy with buck teeth and glasses. And he goes, "Hey, where's the 403rd at?" He goes, "I'm Major Percival. I got to go with you guys." This guy was like an orthopedic surgeon in Bel Air, making probably $1 million a year, but he wanted to go with us so bad. But this guy was a world-class orthopedic surgeon, man. He was amazing.
That's pretty impressive.
No kidding.
And, yeah, he was something else. I'll never forget him, Major Percival. And but we were a full hospital. I mean, we like I said, we had a blood bank, we had laboratory, we had nurses, intermediate care ward, intensive care ward, pre-op. I mean, it's a full hospital, our own food service, our own mechanics.
Now, did you guys have to up and move much, or just stationary?
No, we were stationary.
Stay put.
Yeah, we were stationary hospital, and the thing about it is, we were considered a core asset. And so one of the things that pissed me off was, when I got to Germany, back when I first went, was assigned to Germany, I went to test out for the expert field medical badge. And there was like 300 medics that went through the thing, and I think only about 50 of us passed. And I graduated number 1 out of the whole thing. So I got the expert field medic badge, and I was proud to earn it, because that's that's like the EIB for the infantry. And but none of our medics or I would qualify for the combat expert field medical badge because we were a corps asset. Had we been assigned to a division, then everybody would have qualified for that had the EFMB. So that kind of bothered me. But all the MASH units that went with the division assets, they went so fast that they never set up. So I talked to nurses and docs after the war. Those guys drove around in trucks for days and never set anything up. So everything that we got was directly from the battlefield. They got treated. And then we also had a medevac unit that was assigned to us too, along with the clearing company. So we had helicopters right there, and they would go and they would pick up the guys and bring them right back to us.
So you keep using this terminology, clearing company. I'm not sure. Are you referencing like minefield clearing company, infantry?
No, they were medical clearing company. They were medical
meaning exactly. So I don't know exactly what that means.
Well, I think what they do is they would forward. And so during the war, after they followed through there, one of the things they did, they went up and cleared the battlefield of all the wounded up there because then we started.
Okay.
We started taking care of Iraqis.
That makes sense.
We took care of 20,000 Iraqi prisoners of war after there
was a lot of them.
Well,
did you run into that, Wade? Did you run into the
ones?
Yeah, well, I ran into them too, but man, they were giving themselves up left and right, and we were setting up.
We had prisoners, but we didn't, wounded. There was no wounded.
Well, there was a lot of wounded. I can assure you that, because after the war was over with, we kept our operating rooms going for 3 more weeks as they cleared the battlefield. I mean, they were coming in with their arms blown off, their guts open, but they were still alive. They just left them. And so
really?
They were all over the battlefild. And so, they were kissing our hands and blessing us and thanking us. And
we got a lot of that in passing. I mean, I think all the ones I'm like, wait, they were either dead or they were walking, wanting food and water. They weren't like trying to, they weren't putting up rifles or anything like that. They wanted food and water.
Well, when they came through, even before the war started, they were coming through, and we didn't have any MP support or anything. So we'd just give them an MRE, take their weapon, and tell them to keep going south or whatever. Because we didn't hold them, so we didn't know what to do with them. But we literally had no flak vests or anything. We weren't, we had a few 9mm and some M16s, but we couldn't have fought, anybody off, if we had to. So it was pretty sad how few weapons we had or any support. But
what'd you carry around, Wade?
What's that?
Did you carry around both? Did you carry around both? I mean, you were
Rainbow. Rainbow.
My platoon sergeant, you had to be as good with a weapon as you were with a bandage. So I mean, everybody carried a 16 A2.
You weren't Rambo. You didn't have that red thing you tied around your head.
Oh yeah, everybody had one of those green. Yeah, they were green. They weren't fucking red. They weren't red.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, here's the one thing I've always, to me, I've always said this, and this is the way I feel about it. If they would have let us finish the job, we would have never had to go back in Iraq ever again.
Yeah, but that wasn't our mission. Our mission was to liberate,
to get them out. That's right. It was. But if we would have went in and we would have taken care of it all the way through.
Yeah, but it's the only war we've won since World War II. And we went in there with overwhelming force. We went with a clear mission. We had excellent leadership with Schwarzkopf and Powell. And so we went in, we did our job, we came home with minimal casualties, and I think it was a success. So everybody says it was a short war. It was a short war because we did it right. We went in with a massive force, 100. And I'll never forget when I took that convoy that day when we finally were able to go up there after our plane couldn't land. I'll never forget going down Tapline Road and literally 5 or 6 columns, on the road, off the road, all going west because we did the feint, how he sent everybody to go west so we could do the end around. I'll never forget and seeing wave after wave of helicopter units. I mean, it was the most impressive thing I ever saw in my entire life, seeing how much force and firepower we had, to prosecute this thing. It was impressive, man.
Oh, I mean, I have to agree with you because I remember we were with the battle group at that time, and all of a sudden airplanes started taking off. Missile hatches started opening up, and I mean the USS Missouri. Everybody starts turning their guns, and I'm just like, um, what's going on here? And and dude, everybody started firing, and you're just like, yep, we're at war and everything. And it was just like, but what amazes me how they can coordinate that with all the airplanes, ground troops. I mean, everything, shoot missiles from the sea, and never once have to, worry about hitting our guys, just hitting their targets.
I know. It was an amazing force. It really was. It's and then sadly, it's like when I was in Iraq, Afghanistan, what do they do there? They send, 100,000 guys over there, and then the rest are contractors and wonder why we can't do anything. So
right.
It just, we didn't send anybody there to win. We sent just enough to hold our thumb down on some places, but not enough to hold territory. And we didn't go with a clear mission on either case, in my opinion. So
I agree with you on that. I do agree with you. I think they went over there, and there wasn't. I think it was after 9/11. There was just such an overwhelming support for the military, and we had to do something. But we didn't go in there with a battle plan. We went in there just like, hey, we won them, they hit them, and then that's just how I feel about it. Then if we would have stayed in Afghanistan, not worried about Iraq at that time, we probably would have defeated that quicker.
Well, the Taliban gave up really quickly in Afghanistan,
right?
And so what happened was that all the people that cooperated with us in all the villages, Taliban left, so everybody was happy, and so they went back. And then they set up, Kandahar and Bagram and Kabul, and Kandahar was a NATO base, and so they were happy eating Tim Horton donuts and having a KFC and a TGI Fridays and playing hockey and and just having a good time there. Well, in the meantime, Taliban came back in, killed everybody that cooperated with us, and took back all the territory that Taliban had abandoned.
Right.
So, and then on top of that, then we went into Iraq and took our eye off the prize. So. We just made so many mistakes. It was sad. So
let me ask you something, Doc. A question, because I don't think we've ever had somebody on the show that had been in the Gulf War and then in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now you're retired. What was your take? We know what we left from the Persian Gulf War. We know what we left. I mean, I was an engineer unit. We left everything. I think a lot of tank stuff. I'm not sure how much of that came back, but there was a lot of stuff left when we left. Like you said,
Oh, I've got a story about that.
So hear me on your take on that versus how we left Afghanistan.
Well, okay, a couple of things. If first, one more story about the clearing company, and then I'll get to what you're talking about. So we're at the end of the war, right? We've settled down. We've taken care of all the enemy prisoners, and it's a huge sandstorm, and we're all sitting there trying to hunker down, keep the dust out of our eyes in our tent. All of a sudden, we hear this explosion, and sure as hell, the same clearing company, they had a cluster bomb and a sock, and we're swinging it around, and it blew up. A massive head injury, blew this other girl's arm almost off. And so EOD came in there, and they had a truck. EOD it was an Arizona National Guard EOD unit, came there, looked inside their truck that they had. They said it was so contaminated with explosives, they ended up blowing it up in place. So they couldn't even clear it. So this clearing company had one of the highest casualty rates in the war just from self-inflicted stupidity. So that was a crazy thing. So we're tearing down, and this is the first time we had engineer support when we're packing up our hospital. They came in and dug a hole, and we threw away $1 million worth of medical equipment.
Yes,
pharmaceutical medicines.
Threw away so much shit.
We IVs, and the nurses were screaming. We were saying, why can't we give this to a NGO or the Red Cross or
really?
Ever, we said,
we buried so much shit.
Yeah, $1 million. worth of medical.
Easy.
This is the first time I'm hearing this, John.
Oh, dude. Oh my God.
I mean,
anytime we sat anywhere for any length of time, let's just say it was a week. When it was time to go, we really didn't break down shit, all the parts for whatever. Nope, just doze that shit over. We'll get more. Go.
Oh yeah,
literally bulldozing it over. Literally.
Even in Afghanistan, when I was the deputy program director for LOGCAP in Afghanistan, I had RC Southwest and West, and one of my guys was up on the western border, up in this little fob up there where the 101st Airborne had been. He calls me up one day and he says, "Hey, sir, I found a 50 caliber. Can I keep it?" I said, "What do you mean you found a 50 caliber?" Well, yeah, the 101st was here, and they left a couple of $1 million worth of equipment here. They left tents, weapons, all of this crap they left up there at this place. And I said, "No, you can't keep it." So
why not? Why not?
No, they wouldn't let you keep one of our 50s. Back in the early part of Afghanistan, you could actually collect some weapons, enemy weapons, and send them home. But then there weren't any left by the time I got there in 2010. So.
Well, hold on, because we had a Marine on one time, and they would check everybody's foot lockers coming back. And he was like, you would find the weirdest shit in these foot lockers that they would bring back.
If you're going to move something, you don't put it in a freaking foot locker. You put it in like, I don't know, a
guy brought back a leg. A leg.
A what?
Wasn't a leg or arm. No, it was a hand. It was arm. He brought back an arm. We had a Marine that was on telling us about, they opened up the foot locker and they found an arm, they found a hand. And remember, I was like, it was left or right handed.
Oh God, I do remember. Okay. That was nasty. I'm like, what in the hell?
So y'all can bring back guns back then, but no, you can't bring back an arm.
Well, I bought 2 ceremonial guns that wouldn't even fire. They weren't even real guns. And I still had to go through the whole process and get permits to be able to mail them home or to bring them home.
Well, that's because you're an officer. You had to go about all the right shit.
Yeah, I did try to smuggle them.
And the rumor, and probably a damn good officer because you were enlisted prior. So I respect all the officers. I just know in my experience, those that were enlisted prior before and then went officer, they just understood it more.
What way?
You got rumor had it that your Humvees that are your ambulance Humvees. There's a lot of little hiding compartments inside those. Before they get shipped and before they get put on a boat, they what do you call that? Where you tie them up with the metal bar so you can't open them up, and they won't get opened up until they get back to Virginia. And it's just rumor mill that a lot of contraband got shipped back on those.
Well, my section chief in Germany, he was an alcoholic. And when we go to Grafenwehr, he would take all the medical equipment out of the ambulance and he'd fill up the 2 bench seats with gallons of whiskey. That's how we went to Grafenwehr. And everybody hung out in the ambulance because we had that kick-ass heater in there. And we were the warmest place on the planet. Man, you could heat a sea ration up with that thing, man.
Hey, John, I got a question for you. Someone wants to know what engineer?
249th engineers.
249. 249.
Yeah. We're out of Karlsruhe and it was Karlsruhe. 249th got deactivated and we left everything there. And then I was with I'm trying to think. So I was in 79th engineers in Karlsruhe, and then I was one of the ones that had to backfill 249th engineers in Karlsruhe, Germany. And then we ended up in Wildflicken. So I was stationed permanent part in Wildflicken. They had all brand new stuff. It was great. Now, if you were going downrange, which we built a lot of tank turret pads and stuff out of concrete that engineers did, which is a pain in the ass. But living there, cake.
But I want to get back. I want to get back to what Wade was talking about, these hidden compartments. I mean, we couldn't hide shit on our ship. Nothing. Because, man, they
could hide something.
Well, no, literally, you couldn't. Be honest with you. I'll tell you why. Because, like, if we pull into Thailand or places, actually, they would bring customs on. And customs would search the whole entire ship.
They brought customs. They put the fear of God in you.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
it worked.
you're gone. You got anything in those bags? And all we had was our the line units. All we had was our rucksack and our weapon, and that was it. I mean,
Sure, you did.
that's all you got in front of you.
And so when you came back, did y'all have to give back your weapons?
Well, yeah, I had the same weapon for basically
Yeah.
4.5 years.
What are you going to do
Okay.
with it? Yeah, you're going to give it
Like
back. What
keep
else are you
it.
gonna
I
do?
didn't know if you
We
just got to keep
traveled on the plane with our weapon.
We
You know?
did, yes.
Yeah.
We flew over there in civilian aircraft.
Nah.
We
Not
did.
the first ones that got
We
there,
did.
John. Some of them flew over a 141 with only 30 guys. How about that?
Not me. I flew in. I got the last freaking first class seat on the aircraft, and I know I've told this before, and I knew when that happened because it was just by chance. I said this can't be a good thing, and it wasn't because it hasn't been good,
How about you, Colonel? Colonel, did you get to fly first class?
Not to go over to the Middle East, to Iraq or Afghanistan. We flew commercial charters. That's the way we got there, commercial charters.
On Pan Am?
Trying to think of what the name. They were really.
Wasn't it a weird airline?
They really weren't any kind of name brand deal. They were just contracted
on the way
home. Generic, right?
Pardon me?
Hey, so now, Doc, be honest with me. Now, I know what I experienced as far as trying to get any hooch in the military while we were over there. Did you have any good liquor anywhere?
Well,
I know the answer's got to be yes, because you're in a freaking, medical field.
Good. Hey, good
Two
question.
things. First off, my ex-wife sent me the largest bottle of scope there ever was, and I got the scope. Well, I go, what the hell did she send me this? So I gave it to a buddy of mine.
Oh no!
And so later on, I go use the phone back at Hoffer Albertine where they had the phone bank. I went back there and I finally talked to her. And she goes, "Did you get the scope?" And I go, "What?" She goes, "Did you get the scope?" And then the light went on, and it was a bottle of vodka with green food coloring in it. So the other part of that is a lot of people don't know this, but traditionally, medical units, the doctors and the pharmacists would use pure alcohol as a base for making medications. So we had 5-gallon cans of pure alcohol for making medicines. I mean, this is 200 proof alcohol. And they kept it under wraps until we were getting ready to leave. And then they busted that out. So we were mixing that up with MRE'd Kool-Aid, and we got drunker and hoot owls the night we left. So
are you serious?
There you go. I knew it had to be somewhere in there.
Y'all two buttholes, John and Wade. Y'all made it sound like it was so rough over there for us Army guys, and whatever.
When you're talking 30 plus days of eating MREs and shitting out in the desert.
Wait.
And burning our shit. We had to burn our shit.
Worrying about the state coming up with and visiting you? No. I don't feel sorry for you Navy boys. No.
Well, the weather in January we froze to death, and then it rained like hell one time, and it flooded our entire compound out. I had water right under my cot.
We made boats around it. We literally made boats with bulldozers.
That rain was horrendous, man. And then it was hotter than hell.
It rained. It freaking snowed. All that fun shit. Don't tell. Yeah, I got hotter than hell after the fact.
Stop crying. I mean, really. I'm listening to a man on here talking about 200 proof.
But at least we had our own bunk, right?
We
didn't have to hot brother.
Son of a gun. Listen. I'm not even going to answer. I'm not even going to give you an answer to that.
How about a shower? A shower would have been good.
Okay, now we did have hot shower.
We didn't either. But our engineers actually figured out how to do that. They actually figured out how to way to do it, and they actually built one. And I'll tell you another funny story too. So we had this female doctor who got sent from another unit. And so she gave a class one night to everybody, all the females, about feminine hygiene in the field. And so, they're all going, oh my God, whatever. So one of our maintenance guys had found an old bus. So they stole this bus. And so we had it in our compound. It ran, but I don't know where they got it. But so we had this PFC going on guard duty that night, wandering around. And the next thing she hears this noise in this bus. And she goes in there, shines a flashlight, and hears this voice going, "Don't come in here! Don't come in here!" Well, this doctor was in there with this. They were both black, and she's in there with this black buck sergeant, and he's just boning the hell out of her. And this poor PFC finds him. So that's a big scandal, right? So the next day, Captain Bus is what her nickname was after that. Captain Bus disappeared. She went someplace else.
Now, from what I understand, there were more females that ended up getting pregnant during Desert Storm.
Oh, I believe it.
Especially on ships. I mean, I heard so many stories about that. Yeah, I mean, but I understand it. I mean, you got a whole bunch of guys.
There was a lot of loving in the hospital unit.
A lot of loving.
Yeah.
A lot of loving.
I mean, and that's the cool part. Now we're getting to the end of the show. And I mean, Colonel, it's been awesome talking to you, man. For somebody that starts out going in to basic training as enlisted. And
73.
Yeah, in 73. And goes all the way to Afghanistan. Mace Colonel, you have my full respect.
Well, thank you guys. It was, I love serving. It was the hardest thing I did was take the uniform off because I had a great career. I always worked with such great people. And, and the beauty of being a colonel, I'll tell you, the only thing that really mattered to me was I had the rank and the power to take care of my troops, and
that's what I want to hear.
And that's all that mattered. If somebody tried to mess with my team, it wasn't going to happen. And that's the only reason that rank matters is because I'm nothing without them.
There you go. See, that's what I like to hear. And Wade, and I wanted to bring Wade on tonight because he's another Army guy, and of course John's always on. He's my co-host, and Wade's my co-host, and but without having the guests, without having these guys, we wouldn't have this program. And this program is meant to help out with Desert Storm vets to tell their stories, get it out there, and let everybody understand, yes, it was a short, fast war, but a lot of guys are still struggling today. And so, with that being said, before we get off, this is our first night to StreamYard. The producer's great. He did a great job getting us set up. This is going to be our new setup for now. And we're going to be on YouTube and Facebook Live every Thursday night, 7 p.m. But y'all don't forget, go back and look on our Facebook page. And in this description, we got Nova Research. Y'all go in there, click on it, give Nova a call, and do the research. It's at home. I mean, you can't beat it. You're not flying to DC. You're not flying over here. You're not flying here. You're doing it in the comfort of your home. With that being said, check us out on Patreon. Patreon is going to have all of our after shows, which we're about to go into. And at the bottom of the screen, you can see it says contact me at kevinsimon@goforcesideffects.com. And I want everybody to have a good night. Thank you for coming on, Colonel.
My pleasure.
See y'all in the after show.
God bless America.
Yes, sir.